first thing is whenever you're working with someone, whenever you're bringing someone into your team, and this would be true I teach this in corporations. Well, not now because I'm not training corporations anymore. I'm reserving everything for you. But in leadership, you have to let people know the expectations of how and when to communicate with you. It's important. And so you need to tell them the ways to communicate with you and when you're most available. That's so that you're setting the right expectation. And then in most cases, you should stick to that. Because if you don't stick to that, then having told them isn't going to make any difference. If I tell you that I'm not available on Sundays, but you reach out to me on Sundays and I immediately respond, what did I just do? I just wiped out the fact that I said I'm not available on Sundays, right? So you got to stick to that. Having said that, I'm actually, the blog that I'm doing this week is on this topic. There's something that a lot of people do that I want to make sure you don't do. And that is they extremely damage relationships through ignoring. They ignore, right? They ignore a message. They ignore a contact. And unless you don't care about a relationship, you should never, ever ignore someone, ever. Because ignoring someone is psychologically damaging. It's actually cruel. And you can do deeper research on this if you want, but it triggers anxiety, it triggers paranoia, it makes someone feel unloved, unworthy, it impacts their self-esteem. And this is only a little bit of what it does to people to be ignored. Now, I'm not talking about someone who cold contacts you you've never heard of, that because you get a bunch of those every day. You can ignore that because that's not a relationship, right? There is no relationship. But in relationships, never ignore. Personally, I always operate from the benefit of the doubt. I give people the benefit of the doubt because we all can get busy and miss a call, or say, oh, I got to get back to Frank, and then forget to do that because it was a crazy time or something's going on or something could have just happened in someone's life. So benefit of the doubt is important. But after a few efforts, if someone is ignoring me, I think that's disrespectful. That's saying that I don't respect you as a human being. You're not even worthy of acknowledging that you tried to reach out to me. And, or in some cases, it's cowardly because that person might not want to have to say whatever they have to say. And so they choose to say nothing, and that lacks courage. Or they're uncaring. I know there can be a variety of reasons. That's why I say there's benefit of the doubt, right? So, but the reality is, and my wife will tell anyone this, if you show me who you are, I'm going to believe you. That's just what I'm going to do. I'm going to believe you. And so if you've ignored me multiple times, you will never get the opportunity to ignore me again. I'm not saying I'm worth having as someone that you need to make sure you're connected to. I'm just letting you know how I operate. And I bring this to you from both ends of the spectrum because you shouldn't ignore people, right? I respond to everybody unless I'm getting one of the plethora of LinkedIn unsolicited, we've noticed that you have this and this, and we think you'd be good for this and this. And I'm like, okay, or you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, that's different. But if there's a relationship at all, in my case, I have to protect my energy because I just shared a bunch of my weaknesses a moment ago. I'm highly sensitive. I have low self-esteem. I struggle with anxiety. So I can't allow someone to trigger me in a way that affects how I could show up for Linda today, or show up for Michaela today, or show up for Verena today, because that's what it'll do to me. It'll affect it. And I go to great lengths to guard my energy because that's what God gave me to serve you with. Right? So that's how I handle people who ignore. But my point is, we can't change what people do, but we can model the way you should do. we can model the right behaviors for the human race. I mean, that's part of what makes our community so spectacular, is the quality of the people in this community. And so I just want to put that out there. Never ignore someone if you value the relationship.